I've been working with AST. I did AST online, which was just like the tutoring one-on-one with them. And then I was actually an assistant teacher. My face is a little blotchy, but I was an assistant teacher to Richard in the summer public speaking classes. So this fall, we are going to be offering more public speaking classes, and I would be teaching high school and middle school. So I'll just run you guys through what a basic everyday class looks like. And so I really encourage you guys to join if you guys are interested. It's a great way to sort of get your first exposure into public speaking. It's a very chill class, it's very relaxed, but you also learn a lot of things. And like I said, we're a very like comfortable environment. It's not very like stressed. Hopefully you don't feel too stressed giving your speeches, but I know that for teachers, obviously we try to make it as friendly of an environment as possible so that, you know, you guys feel comfortable speaking aloud. And I feel like it's just a great like beginner's class to take if you really want to do something or like just strengthen your skills in public speaking. And so basically we met every Saturday or Thursday, I forgot, but for basic run through of the days. So we basically started with doing speeches in general. So every week we would have the students sort of prepare a speech, probably like 5 to 7 minutes. I know we sort of ran a little bit short, so they were usually like 4 to 5 minutes, but we have them prepare for homework at least every single week. We'd have them give a like 4 to 5 minute speech, and then we'd have them give that the next class. So every single week we'd assign a new speech like that. And then during that next week, we would listen to it in the beginning of class. You know, students would go one by one, and me and Richard, the other teacher in the class, would give evaluations at the end. So they would just be like talking about, you know, the content, the organization of your speech, or the delivery. How did you sound strong? Did you sound like you were uncomfortable? Did you know your topic well? Things like that. And so once we gave the speeches and evaluations, then we would move on to some more impromptu sort of practicing. So a lot of our classes were just like hands-on. Instead of like just like teaching, it was just like them learning themselves, and then we're just giving feedback along the way. So we usually did impromptu, and we played games and we played questions where basically and then we would just give them one question, and then they'd read the question. They'd probably take like 5 to 7 seconds, and then try and do their best to come up with whatever they can talk about in a 1 to 2 minute speech. And so we do these like, you know, like at least like 3 times every single meeting. So we really try and get the students to really have some exposure to just like on the spot thinking. So I feel like that's definitely a great way to just, you know, really like get them out that experience in public speaking. And towards the beginning, we also tended to we gave presentations. So especially presentations, and we deliver presentations, and inside them we just give like a few tips. It'd be like the first one would be, for example, how to write a speech, and then we'd give some tips on what we think is the easiest way to come up with a well-organized and well-structured speech. And we sort of put them in the presentation, we'd go over it, and then we'd ask if there's any questions, things like that. So we would have those kind of presentations that were prepared beforehand, and they included like how to write a speech, how to give an evaluation. That's also important, just like in critiquing yourself and others. And then how to do impromptu speaking. So those were like the 3 main PowerPoints that we gave. And we tried to do them in the beginning just to, you know, let all the students really make sure they know what they're doing before we just like throw them in the pool, you know. But other than that, we also try to give like some model speeches, for example. So in like YouTube, we would search up like speeches, like some speeches we think were especially delivered well. We'd sort of just like play them for them, and then ask them to talk about what they thought the speaker did well and what they thought the speaker could improve on, and so things like that. And that's basically how our speech class was run. We give speeches, we give impromptu practices, we go over organizations, and we give over like presentations, things like that. So like I said, our class is basically more about sort of like doing it yourself, practicing hands-on, and not just like teaching. We give presentations in the beginning, but other than that, it was basically just learning and doing it yourself, and we're just sort of in the back lines just trying to critique and trying to give you suggestions or improvements. And so overall, I think our 2 students probably gave about like 4 speeches, and in the end we tried to sort of repeat the speeches to see if the students could really like improve it better and get to the point where they could actually like know their speech well enough that they could actually memorize it. And I don't believe our students are here right now. I'm just checking really quick, but if they were here, I'm sure they would be happy to give their speeches. But I encourage everyone, if you guys are interested in public speaking, I encourage you guys to come to this fall's classes. I'll be teaching middle school and high school. And like I said, this is very like chill club. I think that if you guys are nervous, still anxious about public speaking, I feel like this would be a great class to attend. It's not a lot of work. It's just a lot of it we do in class, and it's just about practicing and practicing. So public speaking, you just got to keep on doing it until, like, I know a lot of people are still uncomfortable with public speaking, but most of it is just, you just got to keep doing it until you feel at least like a little bit less uncomfortable, if you know what I mean. So I encourage everyone to join public speaking if you guys are interested in that. And yeah, that was basically the overall of my class, and I hope to see you guys in fall classes. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Maggie. That was a really great presentation. All right, so next up we have Viola, who does baking.
Yeah, so I actually made a, wait, I made a presentation, so like, I don't know.
You can screen share, right?
Wait, it said it's disabled.
Um,
I mean, it's fine. I can just like talk through it.
oh, try again. All right,
Okay.
great.
All right. So, obviously, oh wait, yeah, I'll introduce myself. So I'm Viola Yu. I taught like baking this summer. I'm a rising junior at Howard High School. And unfortunately, I don't think baking is actually like a class for the next school year, but it was really fun to teach over the summer. It was really great seeing how like my students grew and improved their skills and developed like as bakers. So I'll kind of just talk through like what we had 6 classes. I'll talk through like the recipes we made, what we learned in each class. And I have like a few pictures of what we made. Some of them are mine. Some of them I pulled from Google because mine were a little ugly. And so yeah, so the first class that we did, I taught like brownies. It was really just kind of a test to see like the students' skill levels, what they were comfortable with, like, you know, if they're comfortable using an oven, does this mean I can use like a stove? And so it was really basic baking skills. It was just measuring, whisking things, melting things, generally like a really easy recipe. And, you know, it was really fun. It was really successful. Like everyone made their brownies and they all turned out really good. It was basically like a fail-proof recipe, and it was like a really good introduction to the rest of the classes, and it was a really good like starting point to build off of. So our second class, I went a little bit more complicated because my students were pretty talented, and they knew a little bit about baking already. So we actually did 2 cookies in one day, and with 2 different techniques in making them. So this was just more, you know, testing of skill levels, more like building on top of the, you know, the skills they already had. So I mean, cookies, like really, they have a few simple ingredients. It's really just a fat, some sort of flour, and some form of sugar, like a binding agent, which is typically eggs, and flavoring. And we went through all of these like basic concepts in class before we like actually began baking. And so the chocolate chip cookie recipe that I taught them, it was really easy. It was really simple, made with melted butter. And we kind of did a little bit of chemistry, not too much because it's baking, it's not science class, but because, you know, they use melted butter, you need to chill them to make sure that they don't spread too much. And it's really about like the balance between like too much spread and too little spread. And so again, like I I talked through all of these concepts with them, just really like helping them like giving them kind of a base to build off of if they wanted to customize things in the future. So for example, with flavorings, instead of, you know, just chocolate and walnuts, you could do something like M&Ms or something else like that, you know, you want to put in. You could put like caramel chips or anything, honestly. And then for the second cookie that we made on our second class, we did snickerdoodles, which, you know, they're made with a slightly different technique. So this was the first time we learned how to cream butter and sugar together, which gives like a fluffier and more different texture. So again, we went through like the basic concepts. You need fat, flour, sugar, flavoring, cream of tartar, which is like a new ingredient that a lot of people haven't heard of maybe, and it gives like a really good tangy classic snickerdoodle flavor. And we also kind of explored the differences of like what sugars will do to the cookie. So for example, with the chocolate chip cookie, we used a mixture of brown sugar and granulated sugar, but with snickerdoodles, we only used white sugar. And this gives it like two different textures and two different results. So white sugar makes the cookies spread a little bit more. Brown sugar makes them like a little bit chewier. And then the third class that I started kind of introducing like more complicated things. So souffles, which we learned how to make meringues, which is just egg whites that have been beaten to a stiff peak. We also learned this like classic French baking technique, which is where you mix egg yolks and sugar together until they like kind of turn a pale yellow color and like a thicker consistency. And so this was a different concept, a pretty unique concept, like because souffles don't have any flour. So we kind of showed like how you can make recipes like to fit different dietary restrictions. So for example, if you need to eat gluten-free, like this is the perfect recipe because there's absolutely no flour involved like at all. It's just egg whites and sugar. And you know, we also kind of like talk through customization. So in class we made chocolate souffle, so we used melted chocolate, but if you wanted to make, you know, any other flavor of souffle, like it would have worked. You could have done coffee, you could have done vanilla. And basically I taught like this class just in a way that would allow customization in the future, where it wasn't so set in stone, like you have to follow this recipe to the T. Where it's that if you get the basics down, like I tried to ensure that they could make any customizations in the future, like based on, you know, their personal taste. And the fourth class, we did cream puffs. So these have like two major components. Look at that picture. That's a great picture. It's not my picture, unfortunately. So the two components were pastry cream and a choux pastry. And a really good thing about cream puffs is that they teach like basic concepts that are, you know, so widely applicable. So for example, like a choux pastry is also used in making eclairs. It's used in making churros. It's like, so, you know, again, I aim to have my students be able to just build upon this and do different things in the future. The fifth class, we did a cake. It was, you know, it's not like super complicated, but again, we kind of just built off of all of the things that we learned in class, like in the previous classes. So just, you know, making a cake, this was really similar to making brownies. So, but just again, a little bit different. It also brought in some concepts from cookies. And the buttercream, we brought in some concepts from souffles where you beat the egg yolks and sugar together. And we also brought in some concepts from the cream puffs where you're like making the cream. And again, just I taught like how you can customize these things, like the basic French buttercream recipe, but then you can add so many different flavoring components. And I really ensured that my students just left the class like with ideas on how to make it like more their own and more to their taste. And finally, we spent the entire 6 weeks building up to probably like the most technically difficult recipe to bake, which was macarons. So we brought in a lot of techniques from like the first few classes, like from meringues with the souffles, and like folding things in, from brownies. And macarons are actually made with a special technique called a macaronage, where you have to be really careful about folding all your ingredients together, and it's really complicated. But again, I made it so that like we built off all of the things that we'd been doing in the past. So with the fillings, like we'd made buttercream fillings for cakes before, so it wasn't like too big of a jump. With the cookies, we did make cookies like in the second class, and this just really helped ensure success in making the macarons. So yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Viola. I can tell that your students really did a lot this summer. Okay, so Maggie Wang for crochet is next. So Maggie, do you want to unmute yourself? Or maybe you're still muted and you just don't know. All right, so Maggie, if you are having technical difficulties, you can just come back to you. And chat here. So yeah, we'll circle back to you, Maggie. Oh, is it working now?
Oh, sorry. My computer crashed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going next, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. I'm turning it on. Okay. So this summer, first of all, hi, my name is Maggie Wang, and I am a rising junior at Howard High. This summer, I taught crochet, and I have my student Allison with me to present. Yeah, I do. And let me just share my screen. Okay. Okay. Oh, sorry. All right. Okay. So that's my slide. We already said a little bit about me. And then I don't know if this is relevant, but I mean, here's like a history, I guess. So it originated from Arabia and other European cultures, and it was popularized in the 1960s. And at first, it was just learned from it was just taught person to person. So there was no like written instructions, and that's why there's like a lot of variations in styles. Importance. Well, I started crocheting in middle school, and I had a lot of fun, and I made a lot of friendships with my teachers and my friends, and I want to recreate that space for my students, and also anyone can learn. And for the class, it's 7 weeks, 1 hour each class on Fridays. And on the slide, it says like it's important to understand the foundation in order to, be able to learn more intricate and complicated patterns and designs. And it's also really helpful to understand like yarn texture and size, and also the hook size you'll be using, because you will have different results. Yeah, so here's my student, Allison.
Okay, hello, I'm Allison. I'm currently 11 years old and a rising sixth grader. My hobbies include ice skating, playing video games, and doing art.
Allison? Hello?
Allison, are you there with us?
Okay. What happened?
If you can't speak for some reason, maybe you can put something in the chat.
Oh, wait. Sorry, I can't hear. There's like a lawnmower.
Yeah.
Okay. Did something happen?
All right.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just say this for her. So class, yeah, like I said before, it started on Fridays, from 2 to 3. And so we made like scarves, hats, and other stuff. She likes to just, find new things to do. And that's why she picked it up during quarantine. And now she can read all sorts of patterns and do a lot more structured. And here are her projects. So her fingerless gloves, and she used this with like a 4.5 hook, I believe. And the stitches she used were really basic. Single crochet, the Elizabeth stitch, which is like another variation of the cluster stitch. And it's just she used her foundations to make this. And she made a whale using like a 5.5 millimeter hook. And she also used a single crochet, and she used a half double crochet, which is a little more advanced than a single crochet. And she used a double crochet, I believe. I can't see my screen. But yeah. And also finally, oh wait, did she include another one? Okay, well, sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I guess like I took inspiration from my projects too, and I was trying to teach her. Oh wait, sorry, she just texted me.
Yeah, it seems Allison's mic is not working.
Yeah. Well.
So, I don't know if you want to type in the chat, Allison, or if you just want Maggie to continue presenting for you. You can tell us in the chat which one you'd prefer. Or if there's just anything you want to add, you can just put it in the chat, maybe. Okay, so she said Maggie can present for her. So.
Oh yeah, I already kind of did.
Yeah, you already did.
Yeah, so we just used like the foundations, and we made like really simple projects like scarves, gloves, and she made like her own stuffed animal, which is like pretty cute. Yeah, and so like I was saying, like I took inspiration from my projects, and I tried to make them a little more simpler and easier for her to grasp. For example, like the dress, we managed to, I think, or like she decided to make a scarf for herself, and that was really cool. And then, the scarf, obviously, and stuffed animals. And yeah, that was my little pun. It'll leave you in stitches. Have a great school year. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Maggie and Allison. That was a really nice presentation. Okay, so next up we have our last Maggie with Creative Friday.
Hi guys, my name is Maggie, and this summer I taught the creative writing class. All right, I'm gonna share. All right. So an overview of this specific class was that it was 7 weeks. We met every Thursday at 2 p.m. and we had 5 students ranging from grades 2 to 5. You can see me, I'm on the left, and the TA, teacher's assistant, is on the left. I am a rising senior, or I guess kind of current senior, I guess, at Centennial High School, and Alina is a senior at Reservoir High School. And we both have, we both had experience teaching like ELA or writing before. All right, okay. So our class was, I guess, split into 2 parts. So the first part went for 5 weeks. This was writing a short story. And the 5 lessons included vivid writing, creating characters, story structure, dialogue, and revision. And the poetry part went for 2 weeks. And we went over couplets, cinquains, haikus, and limericks. Okay, and for our story, for our short story unit, what I had students do was pick out a painting, and they had to write a story from the perspective or about the main character. So I'll just, none of my students are here today, but I'll still be reading some of their stories. So this first one was, it was by a rising 2nd grader named Ethan, and he did his based off The Old Guitarist by Pablo Picasso. And something that I had them do was they had to research the painting, the context in which it was created, so that they would make the appropriate decisions about what their characters should be named, what sort of events should happen. So I'm going to pull up Ethan's story. Okay. So this is Ethan's story. I'm sure I can't read it as well as he did, but I'll try my best. Hi, my name is Diego E. Mascaroni. The E stands for Itano, except I don't like Itano. Just call me Diego E. Today was a very special day to me because it was my birthday. On my birthday, my family normally does something special with me. In the evening, I would present a recital with my guitar. In the morning, my wife walked in the room and said, "We are going to the beach for your birthday." So we packed excitedly and drove off to the beach. When we got there, I laid down the beach mats and applied the sunscreen. We had a great day at the beach, chomping on hot dogs, building sandcastles, playing, and swimming. When we got home, I freshened up and hurried off to do my performance. When we arrived there, I saw hundreds of people in the audience. I was nervous. When I walked on the stage, the audience roared. I said, "Welcome to my birthday recital." One of the songs I played was "You Raise Me Up." I felt joyful because of the words "You raise me up when I'm down." When I finished, the crowd went wild. I bowed and said, "Thank you." When we returned home, I noticed that the front door was open. I was pretty sure I had closed it when I left the house. I picked up a yardstick and cautiously stepped into the house. Then I realized my house had been burglarized. I called the police right away, but they didn't come. Instead, a CIA agent appeared out of nowhere and said, "You need to serve in the war for our country. This is the order from our president." I told him all the excuses I could think of, but before I knew it, I was pushed into a car and sent to the blood-stained battlefield with a musket. I wasn't paying attention when a bullet went straight through the muzzle in my gun and jammed it. So I dropped my gun and ran until I got home. But everything looked different. There were skull flags all around my house. My cars were gone, and in their place were 2 monster trucks. I went into my house to investigate. I tried to find out where my family was, but they were not in the house. Suddenly, I saw the CIA agent in my garden bragging to people how he faked to be a CIA agent, robbed my house, sent me to the war, and took over my property. I snuck behind him and had him in a headlock. However, his bodyguards threw me out of my house and dumped me on the street. I lost everything I had, except for my music. I became homeless. I started to play guitar on the street to make money to survive. For 3 years, I had been playing the familiar tunes that only my family knew on the street. I had hoped that one day, when they walked by and heard the music, they would recognize the song and unite with me. I became very ill and looked pale. I was not sure how long I could last. One day I was playing You Raise Me Up, and I heard someone screaming, "Papa, Papa!" I followed the voice and saw my family standing not far away from me in tears. I couldn't believe my eyes. Everyone was overjoyed about the reunion. They told me how much they went through after I was kidnapped for the war. An old musician friend of mine took them in and kept them for all these years. I needed to take back what belongs to me. My plan of revenge was starting. To be continued. And that is where he ended his story. So I was personally really impressed by Ethan's story, given that he had just finished first grade. His story was actually done with minimal editing. The edits are actually still on here. And yeah, he did really well on this. He knew an alarming amount about guns, but we'll just skip over that. All right, and our next one is called Agnet's Adventure to America. This was by Daniel Ahn, a rising fifth grader, and he did his story based on The Scream by Edvard Munch. In a small town in Norway, Agnet was packing to make a new life in America. It would be risky in the midst of World War I, as many British soldiers would be patrolling the grounds. But Agnet would have hope, something he would keep for the rest of his life. He took one last look at his house before leaving, knowing it was the last time he would ever see it. He walked into the seemingly infinite amount of trees before sneaking by soldiers and catching a ride on a cargo train. While in the train car, he conserved the food he had and hid in a container. Once off the train, Agnet then proceeded to run 40 miles to the docks. But then a British soldier spotted him and alerted his fellow soldiers. He ran like a cheetah, fleeing for his life, and hid in the bushes, while his heart almost jumped out of his chest. Agnet made the grueling walk to a filthy ship. By the end of it, his shoes were almost worn down. He was finally on his way to America. The ship reeked, and everything was dirty and unclean. He then had second thoughts, though he realized there was no point turning around after all this way. During the next week, Agnet endured horrible conditions and selfish cabin mates. One day, Agnet saw a German U-boat. This was horrible news, as they were powerful and advanced. The crew was astonished and tried to steer away, but it was too fast, and they thought of a plan. The ship's occupants would have to make the ship look abandoned by turning off everything and hiding below the hull, making it seem deserted and unused. This plan worked to the relief of the occupants. The rest of the journey was rather uneventful and dull, other than making friends with his cabin mates. When he finally made it to America, he felt happy and overjoyed. Over the years, he got a job and had a family. Now, even as an old man, he tells the story about determination and hope. And that is how Daniel's story ended. And yeah, that's all I have. I don't know if this class will be taught in the fall. I will not be teaching it, but I'm sure whoever teaches it will do a great job.
All right, thank you so much, Maggie. The stories of your students were super compelling. All right, so I think that was our last presentation. So if anybody else has any questions for our instructors or me, or anything, you can ask in the chat or you can unmute yourself. So any questions?
Thank you for hosting this, Kathy. You were a very good host.
All right, thank you. So just hold on one moment. If you are a parent or somebody who is interested in signing up for a class, if you put your email in the chat, I can send you a special code for a 10% discount on classes. So anybody here interested in that? No? Okay, very cool. All right, so I guess thank you all instructors for presenting.
Thanks for hosting.
No problem. I did not know I was going to be hosting.
See you.
Yeah, bye everybody.